Today's ASMR episode is brought to you by JJ's Brunch.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
Exercise would an ape make a human down? It talks. The other keepers of the divine bound. It is our only reason for survival. We are determined to know what the apes want, war or peace.
The only good human is a dead human!
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, a daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies, and we have a very good brunch brought to us by Sean's wife, JJ.
Yeah, so if you hear me smacking, I'm finishing my part of the meal.
So we had cinnamon rolls with sausage.
Mm-hmm. With fruit.
She's also got cereal in there for us. She has almond milk ready if you need it for your cereal.
And we have mimosas if you would like
booze.
mimosas.
Oh,
Yes.
what? I didn't know that.
Oh, by the way, we have mimosas.
Thanks, Richard. Thank you. You're great. You're a great host. Sean, not so much. You know, I lovingly say this, and I said this to JJ last night, that I went to my wife and I said, you know, when we're at Sean's and we podcast there, you know, JJ like makes food. And her simple response was JJ.
Yep.
Which she knows JJ and loves JJ, but it was very much, it is so in line with my wife. She's like, if you want food, you can make it yourself.
Bang.
Just to the audience out there, I'm thinking you're saying JJ's prepared for everything. Like if you're doing anything with JJ's, like I'm always a host. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I will make sure everything is on point. I go over to somebody's house. I bring stuff. Like she's always got everything. This is the person I've known who's more put together in every event and social event and greeting and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just lucky to put on pants and wander over and be like, hey guys, what's up?
I will often be that person that feels the need to even go to Google and say, do I need to bring something to somebody's house? Just because I don't know the
proper
situation.
etiquette?
Yeah.
What is the etiquette for this?
Yeah, JJ makes us all look like a bitch. So
Yeah.
to JJ's defense, all of us.
Yeah,
Right.
Instead,
No,
she's
she
better
has
than
it,
we
yeah.
are, without question. And again, my wife meant that in humor. And anyway, we move on.
No, she embodied me. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so with all that aside, we are to minute 67. Sean, tell us what's going on with the minute 67.
We start at minute 67 with the guard saying the lieutenant hasn't checked in yet, and ends with Zira and Cornelius escaping down a hill.
All right, let's listen to this porn music heavy version of minute 67, Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
No, sir, the lieutenant hasn't checked in yet.
Night, Charlie.
Night, Ed. Yes, sir, I'll give him that message. Contact the motor pool. Yes, sir, just as soon as I see you. Gate 4. Oh, yes, Captain. No, sir, the supply truck isn't due until 0600 hours. Well, I'm sorry, sir.
Good night, Charlie.
I said good night. We haven't any way to contact them until then. Well, the depot's closed, sir. Okay, sir. I'll be off duty, but the relief comes on at 0430 hours, and I'll get him to pass a message. Yes, sir.
As minute 67, we have a planet's worth of humans, plus 2 living apes, 1 who's pregnant, and 1 dead ape.
All right, so we're at gate 4 100% here.
Yeah.
This is all choreography and just, I mean, Dane wrote all that dialogue. All the stuff you hear the guards saying that are just mumbo jumbo nothing, that mean absolutely nothing at all whatsoever, that is happening right now as you listen to it.
Right.
Yeah, he wrote all that down.
So,
Yes, Captain. No, sir. The supply truck isn't due till 600. Well, I'm sorry, sir. I've contacted you before. Okay, sir. I'll be off duty then. But by the
Gate 4 is busy tonight, isn't it?
seriously.
Uh-huh.
So I teased it yesterday that the minute, the way it plays out, it's not so bad. You almost have to have that kind of minute because we got to figure out how they get out.
Yeah.
They have to escape.
But if you were to do it in the modern version of it, obviously having the CG characters, it would be them escaping, climbing up trees, going up the roof, going up the side of a wall, instead of hiding behind a guard, hitting a button, and walking out.
So the whole point being is at what point when you're hiding beneath the window and you hear the people speaking, you might hear that there's
but you don't know what they've done to open the gate.
You don't know what button, you don't know what key, you don't know anything. And that's where the staging of the scene really plays incorrectly, because even if you just had Cornelius peeking up over, that guard, you can have those convenient things where we see Cornelius peeking, and as the guy turns away, he peeks and he watches somebody hit the button. Then he has the information, but he has nothing. So the scene plays correctly from what is done and said, but what he does because he didn't see it makes no sense.
The guard speaking on the phone intercom thing where he's talking to people is basically just a diversion tactic
to keep
for the
his
guard.
back to.
So the guard is that's the whole all that speech, that stuff is not relevant to anything that's going on. It's not even relevant to the fact that they now have a dead attendant inside.
Yeah, because I would thought that the first call that you would see them picking up on, what? They're not there. Well, we'll be keeping an eye out for them.
And
something like that.
Something like that. I guess the alert hasn't happened yet. I mean, we should assume the alert hasn't happened. But you're right. So Zero and Cornelius are ducked beneath the window. Mm-hmm. We see Guard 2 come in. We see him say goodnight. We see him open the little metal control panel. Yeah. He then presses the button that Cornelius does not see. Mm-hmm. He then walks out of the booth.
Whips that gate open.
Whips, it was not. It's not electronic gate. I mean, there's something.
There's a nylon cord.
Pulling that gate
hard.
open.
Dental floss.
That opens. He walks through, and then the gate just kind of closes. And Zero and Cornelius.
he closes it behind him.
But the Zero and Cornelius do see that moment. They do see him walking out of that gate. It's done from beside the shed, and there's wind coming back on Zero's mask. That even though that rocky kind of crevice behind them almost looks like fake, they must be outside. Otherwise, they put a wind machine on them to show her hair moving. Okay. But I think they're out. I think they're literally outside right now, which means this guard station is a real thing.
Or it was built there.
I don't know. There's kind of some. Well, it could be fake brick. But anyway, so he has to come in. I don't know. The guard's back is turned to Cornelius. I have no idea why Cornelius has to say goodnight.
Good night, Charlie. Good night, Charlie.
Why, yes, I said goodnight.
Well, and then, Ed or whatever his name is a complete bitch. I said goodnight.
Well, no, Charlie's the bitch.
Oh, it's Charlie?
Yeah, because he says goodnight, Charlie.
He says
goodnight,
Ed's
the guy who left
So Charlie's a bitch.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious, Charlie didn't. Do we need to send JJ out? Because I do believe her etiquette and her manners are much better than you.
Well, okay, let's think of this. This is supposed to be a military base, I'm assuming, because it's Camp 11. Mm-hmm. You would think that guard duty would be younger, more virile men instead of just some old guy watching the gate.
Are you sure? I don't know. Maybe he's on retirement. He's about to get there.
That all happens at Camp 10, Sean.
Yeah, at Camp 10.
10 through 1.
11
is
is
young, virile people.
11 was all the rejects show up.
Including Chipper, who brings in the food. I mean, these are people that couldn't cut it.
This is a guy that you, smack him once and his head bursts open like a rotten cantaloupe, apparently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the minute is crucial. I think Sean's point is a pretty interesting one, that were this made in the films today, the monkeys would
not go past the gate or anything.
They would actually find true ape-like ways to escape.
To get through.
Yeah. Or they would be, it's much more ingenious. They don't always have to climb a tree, but they understand their surroundings. They understand how to get past it.
Or they'd be climbing telephone wires to get to other areas, yeah.
But, I mean, you think about this moment of moving from to the guard, to the call, to seeing what was happening, to somebody coming in, to being behind, to seeing the gate open. But there's some choreography that's happening in this moment. I mean, they had to really kind of they had to if they didn't storyboard this, I would have storyboarded this movement here just to make sure that I'm getting it correct. Because there is a lot more than just one room back and forth. I mean, they're moving around quite a bit to kind of make the scene happen.
To be fair,
it is a flaw that you don't see him press which button he presses to let him out of the gate.
The scene is done correctly, except for that Cornelius should not have the information, therefore it ruins the entire scene. To be fair,
do you think that would you have caught that at the theater if you were watching it, or would you only seen that when you're breaking it down?
I'm not always on top of those things, but there are movies when I watch it, I'm like, what? But
this might have been that moment. You're like,
this one's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Just because if you're waiting, you're almost, that film has that language where we expect the character to get the information to act upon it. And when he doesn't, it's pretty bad. But would I catch it? I don't know.
I was just surprised that Dane wrote out everything that the guard one says. Like it was just
the caravan's not here yet. The motor pool, I don't know. All that kind of stuff. I'm going to be gone soon. Talk to the next guy.
Yeah, it was just kind of a bunch of mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
I felt bad for Dane for writing it
I mean,
out because he's writing enough lines to kind of give these moments to happen. He's like, okay, I've got to time this out. Maybe he timed it like it's going to take 20 seconds to do this. It's going to take 10 seconds to do that.
Can I see that page, please? May I see that page so Sean doesn't use his...
So many times. Yeah, it just... I'm assuming, where it's dark, so it's midnight, something like that. Why are people calling this guard with so much questions in the middle of the night? It feels like just busy work, yeah.
So go ahead.
So I was reading, I'm looking at the script and trying to find... I mean, sometimes it is the job of the screenwriter to tell us literally what we're putting together as visual images. So I'm only going to read the action, I'm not reading the dialogue. The incoming guard 1 moves to ringing phone as outgoing guard 2 presses the button on metal wall panel during, and there becomes dialogue. The pressed button has released the latch of the gate, which guard 2 opens and closes behind him manually before departing. We pan to Cornelius's head, cautiously surveying this from outside the guardhouse window. So at no point does the script even call for Cornelius to understand the buttons. He's surveying the action of the gates. So, I mean, to an extent, it begins with Dane mistakenly conveying power onto the character to do an action, but then Taylor doesn't even catch it. I was kind of hoping that it would almost imply at some point that Cornelius had watched the button being pushed.
I think probably one of the fallacies or one of the things that doesn't work for the scene is the fact that we have a moment where we see Zero and Cornelius walk or kind of shuffle across the driveway, moving behind the guard gate with the guard outside. We have a phone that brings the guard inside, right? Mm-hmm. And then we switch to Zero and Cornelius's moment. If that panel had been opposite that, they could have stayed on the point of view of Zero and Cornelius to see the action happening. But because of the structure or fake structure that was built, they had to then switch back to the inside to go from the guard's exterior position. Therefore, we can no longer see them looking in the window because the panel is next to them.
Right.
Like it's almost as if the panel had just been temporarily relocated to the other side. I think they were just working with the facility that they had at the moment.
You're always looking for actions and inner drama within the scene. So the drama may be the story of this scene may be that they're at a gate. A guardhouse that leads to a gate that will allow them to escape. That's the surface level. You can have the drama within the scene be something different to where maybe it's not even Cornelius that sees it. Maybe it's Zira and she almost gets excited and he has to, nod his head. If it had done anything like that could have worked. I guess maybe what they're trying to do is keep them from looking into that window and being seen.
Well, so back to the idea of whether this is a comedic moment or whether it's supposed to be a moment of tension. The interplay with the guard just being nonchalant and saying, "I said goodbye."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The tone of his even speech is not tense. It could have been a dramatic moment where they're trying to flee and you would need kind of some music to build it up. And this idea of being able to finally see an escape, opposed to
it should have been different. It shouldn't have been Cornelius saying "Goodnight, Charlie," and I already said goodbye. It should be Cornelius was behind him. He made some sort of noise that Charlie heard, and then Charlie goes, "I thought you were out of here, Ed," and he goes, "Goodnight, Charlie."
Yeah, that's a good point.
Something like that instead of just "Goodnight, Charlie."
Like he almost got caught, but the tension isn't played in. There's no tension in this moment.
There was absolutely no reason for him to say "Goodnight, Charlie." He could have just hit the button and left.
So, go ahead.
Well, to be fair to it, again, this film is shot in such an economical manner that they actually do a pretty good job of making the scene work. I don't think we'd be killing the scene and begging for it to have these other things if Cornelius simply had seen. Well, if we weren't doing this a minute at a time, if Cornelius had actually just seen which button to push. We would not probably have a problem with the way that played out. You're right.
Or hell, you just make it one button. you don't have 6 buttons up there. You just make one button that opens a gate and you just simplify. Yeah, bing. That's it. Serious.
Yeah. Or hell, why didn't Cornelius just start pushing all the buttons?
Yeah,
and creating chaos? And,
then he's like, "Hey, what's happening? Oh, good night, Charlie.
Right.
I hit the wrong buttons.
Right.
That would have been interesting as well.
And then you could actually have the call come through at that very moment. Maybe it's on the red bat phone over here. Bang! And he picks it up, and we need you over here. Have you seen anything? What? And he's now looking off over here at the apes. It's a misdirection.
Yeah.
So the next moment is them getting out the gate, and then they do close the gate behind them. And I have a question that you see them kind of move off into.
We get 38 seconds